Hey, I wanted to share with you some thoughts that were going through my head literally as I was walking to my office here this morning. Now, today is August 12th, 2019. I'm recording this on August 12th. Now, the reason that's significant is that this is a decision point time. August 12th. What's so special about August 12th? Well, here's what I want to let you know. In looking through the rest of this year, excluding holidays, 5 of them to be exact, and all weekends, we have 97 business days left counting today. 97. 97 business days left this year to make this year your best year ever. 97 business days left to make sure you hit the goals you originally set out to accomplish. Now here's what I know. Here's what I was thinking about. A lot of people start their years with a bang. They start really, really fast. They come out of the gates running hard, charging, excited, amped up. And just like most other New Year's resolutions, that excitement wanes over time. As you know, life doesn't reward you for how fast you start. Life rewards all of us for how strong we finish. Now we've got 97 business days left ahead of us, and in most markets, the average days on market across the country is somewhere between 60 and 90 days. So what that tells us is we have essentially one market cycle left before the end of the year. If we want our deals to count this year, one market cycle left, meaning that any business we want to close before the end of the year, we have about a week and a half to 3 weeks, somewhere in that range, to get it under contract. Now, of course, cash deals might close sooner, but here's the point. Conventional deals, we have enough time for one more cycle. Now, here's what we also know. We know that a lot of us are going to be behind. So I want to ask you right now as you're watching this, stop what you're doing. I promise you it's worth it. Stop what you're doing. I want you to write down right now, what was your goal at the beginning of this year for closed units? What was your goal? Write it down. Now next to that, I want you to stop and I want you to write down, what's your reality? How many have you actually closed year to date so far? So what was your goal in closed units for the year? And where are you at in pace for that goal? How many have you closed so far this year? Now I want you to subtract those two and that gives you the gap. That's how much we're ahead or behind our original goal. Now, I want to talk to you guys because we have 97 days to close that gap. 97 days. And 97 days is plenty of time if we're purposeful in our approach. Now, we read a book this year at UHG called The 12-Week Year. And it's an incredible book. If you read it, maybe it's time to reread it. If you haven't, I would definitely pick it up. But this book screams at what we're talking about here. It speaks directly to this issue of getting more done in 12 weeks than most people get done in an entire year. So what would happen if you took this next 12 weeks, this fourth quarter, our 97 days, and you treated it as if it was a year, and you took that gap goal and you made that your goal, that your strategic and purposeful goal for those 97 days? Now I know a lot of you, maybe that gap is really big, and here's what I can tell you. A lot of people that I've worked with in the past have surprised themselves what happens when they purposefully apply themselves. So this reminds me of a story, and I want to share this with you quickly that illustrates this point. Now, a couple years ago, I ran my first ever half marathon. So here I am standing at that event, and I'm at the starting line, and the people and the crowd is beginning to gather, right? And the excitement and the nervousness inside of me, because I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I understand the concept, but until you're there, there's a little bit of apprehension. You don't quite know what to expect. And I can see the big clock counting down to the time it's going to be when we officially cross that starting line to begin this race. And all the time, all the training and effort and everything I've put into that point came down to this moment. And at that moment, the crowd was gathering and the noise level was getting bigger and the music was getting louder. And all of a sudden, your heart is pumping, your adrenaline's flowing through your body. You are so jacked up. You're ready to take on the world. And the buzzer goes off, and I cross the starting line. And I did what most first-time runners do. Most first-time runners running a race make this mistake. They run out of the gate way too fast. And I let that adrenaline, that excitement, and that nervous energy fuel me. And I was hitting an 8-minute mile. Guys, that's not my average pace, but I was so excited that I was hitting an 8-minute mile. And if you're a runner, you know what happens next. If not, follow along. Here's what happens. I hadn't prepared or trained for that level of intensity. And like most agents, I came out of the starting gate, hair on fire, running like I've never run before. So excited about the goal and accomplishing what I'd set out to accomplish, and yet I had not prepared or trained. And as a result, that pace that I was setting wasn't sustainable. Now maybe that's you, maybe that's just like you in your business. Maybe you set out like crazy in the beginning of the year and you got off pace, and as a result, discouragement sets in, frustration. I get it, I've been there. All that sets in, and maybe you've allowed that to let you take your foot off the gas. Well, here's what I know. I was halfway through the race, and it's called bonking if you're a runner. I totally bonked. My body was done. I had nothing left, or so I thought. I had nothing left is what I was telling myself. And my legs felt like huge tree trunks that I was having to drag around with me everywhere I went. And every time I took a step, it was painful, and it shot pain up both legs. You see, what I had done is I had exhausted myself before it was time. Now, here's what I know. I made a commitment. I made a commitment to myself, to some people around me. I made a commitment that I was going to finish what I started. You see, I wasn't rewarded for how fast I started. I knew the reward came with how strongly I finished. And so I finished that race, and I had to walk sometimes, and then I started running, and then I walked a little bit more, and then I ran. But bottom line, I finished the race. I did what I said I was going to do. Now you guys, you have this opportunity in your business. Maybe you're off pace. You have that gap. You have a 12-week year in front of you. You have a fourth quarter in front of you. I want you to ask yourself, what could you do to close that gap? What could you do in this next 97 days to close that gap? I want you to list it all down. Go ahead right now. Pause this video. Write it down. What could you do to close that gap? And then the most important question of all, out of that list of things you could do, what will you do? What will you commit to doing? Guys, here's what I know. You have a ton of opportunity in front of you. You have 97 days. We've had people at UHG that have come into the business and done more in 97 or 90 days, their first 90 days, than a lot of our partners do in a year. So don't tell me it's not possible. What you may need to tell me if it's the truth for you is you're not willing. Now, I hope that's not the case, but let's be real careful with the words we choose. Everyone watching this video has the capability of doing this. Every single one of you can commit to saying right now, this is my line in the sand. This 12-week year begins now. I'm going to capitalize on the end of this year now because I don't care how fast or slow I started. I'm committed to finishing strong. One last quote from the book 12-Week Year that I loved. He says this. He says, you can't build your reputation on what you're going to do. You can't build your reputation on what you're going to do. So guys, the time is now. Talk is cheap. You're 3/4 of the way through the year. What will you do to finish strong? What will you do to make this year the best year you've had in real estate in the last 3 months of the year?